Welcome to the Real Construction Owners Podcast, where we interview real construction owners doing big things so we can teach you how to become a successful owner instead of a stressed out operator. Today we have Kelly Shepard, the owner of All Weathertight Roofing out of South Florida. You're going to learn several things about his processes, his SOPs, his secret sauce, and what has enabled him to become a successful owner instead of a stressed out operator. Welcome, Kelly. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks very much, Justin. How are you?
Life is good, brother. Living out here in Costa Rica, enjoying being an owner like yourself. You've been doing this for 3 generations. You've had offices in, the Northeast, now in the Southeast. Well, tell us a story. How'd you get started? Like, take us all the way back. We want to know the goods.
I was born into a roofing family. My father was from Pennsylvania, was in the Navy, met my mother at the Boston shipyard, and we settled and started a family in Massachusetts. Most my siblings, I'm the youngest of 6. We were all involved with roofing growing up. Once my dad had passed away in 1998, my brothers and I ran the roofing company for a little bit, and then saw it was time for me to go out on my own. In November in the Northeast, not a good idea. I wouldn't recommend it, but I spent a lot of cold days working. So for a few years, I did what you said. We push, we put our nose to the grindstone, and, as long as we're dead tired at the end of the day, we know we did a great day's work on our business. And then I met a business coach in my first BNI group, Massachusetts. He got me more from that pickup truck roofer, which my dad was. He made a great business out of it, to a more professional roofing company that had the ability to scale. So I met my second business coach. He got me involved in all kinds of the back end of roofing, and just met the right people, listened to the right people, listened to some of the wrong people, as we do, and really started tracking and putting things together over the past 10 years. Moved to Florida back in 2017, started a roofing company here, and our motto was, do what you say you're going to do and do it. And we became very successful quickly.
Isn't that funny how you can become successful just doing what you say you're going to do? So many people don't actually do that. And that's one of the reasons they don't have the success. It's interesting you said that, you were like a one-man operator or like a small company, and then you found a coach, you found a mentor to model after. And by doing so, that gave you, your next boost of success. And then you found another coach, and that got you to your next level. I'm curious, what's 1 or 2 principles that you learned from those 2 coaches that took you out of the seat as an operator and got you closer to becoming an owner who could oversee everything?
The biggest thing, my first coach, I didn't have him for a long time. He more got my mindset going, where my mindset should be. My second coach dug in and worked with me he was that boxer guy that was going to beat it into you, or you were going to learn a method. What I would say is number 1 is communication. You got a 4-legged chair, all the legs got to communicate with each other, from, when the lead comes into the office, to who's going to do it, to the sale, to the production, to the closing it out. So I think communication, I would say, and establishing a good system. Most roofers know what's going on and how to do it. They might need help setting up an office. They might need help setting up that chain of how things are going to go. But I think those would be the 2 biggest things, is communication and having a schedule and letting everybody know what that schedule is.
Now, looking back, What's one thing like you wish someone had told you before you started scaling your company?
Be careful of who you listen to because there's a lot of misguided people out there. Do your homework.
For sure, for sure. I totally get that. Now, your current business model, y'all do some storm work, y'all do some retail. Like what's the mix in terms of 50-50 or 80-20?
Here in Florida, we haven't had a storm this year, thank God. We are 90%. Again, we open an office in Fort Lauderdale. We don't want a storm chase. What a lot of people don't realize is, yes, the storm chasers come in, they make a ton of money. They're set up for that. They go dormant for however long they have to. And when another storm hits, they get it back up and running. I've seen the process. It looks like NASA when you walk into some of these guys' offices. No, we're more of a, we're here, where we want to be part of our community. If we do storm chasing, I have guys that I pull in that go do that. I've worked with them for years. They know what they're doing, and they have the same mindset and attitude as I do. It's done right, and that's the only way to do it.
Okay, so you're a retail-based business. You don't storm chase. Now, regarding your salesmen, how many salesmen do you have? How are you generating leads? Talk to our audience about like how you're bringing revenue in. What are the methods?
Of course, Google is your number one revenue stream. Find someone really good that knows what they're doing on it, and you can make some money off that. You know, back in the day when I started out on my own, there was the Yellow Page. A lot of younger people don't know that. Yellow Pages, you were a small group of local roofers or whatever your trade is or business. And, you know, that's how you got work. Today, you have Facebook, which we do. One thing I would like to say is I would like to see Facebook legitimize their ads and have some kind of guidelines on their ads. I'm one of those very upfront, I'm a straight shooter, and I don't like misleading ads and stuff like that. So I found one of our best bases is running a simple, honest ad. You want a roof estimate? We're here for you. We'll go through, you know, do what we have to get you the right roof system you need. We do all the lead generation companies. There's a lot of things you have to do today if you want to keep free salesmen going full time.
So you're doing Google. Are you paying for PPC? Are you paying for SEO?
Oh yeah, SEO, PPC. We use networks. Angie's, we use a little bit of them, as well as we have some private guys that will run ads for us. Like a guy, I like my ads to be honest.
Sure, totally. And you know, nowadays it's changed. Like the whole new Andromeda, I think it's called, with Meta and Facebook. It used to be you could make a good video, a few videos, and then target. But now it's much more complex. This is like within the last couple months. God is my witness. I used to get thousands of leads through Meta, but now I'm not generating as much. So that's somewhere I'm struggling. In my business, we do a ton of door knocking because it's still legal in my state, and we do a lot of telemarketing. We have a whole call center that just books my salesmen appointments.
We do the same.
Now, when a storm hits, can you like walk me through like a typical storm situation? Like, what does the first 48-hour window look like inside your business?
I can tell you from personal experience. I was home throughout Hurricane Ian. In my development, reached over 200-mile-an-hour sustained winds. What you're going to get the next day is when everybody just starts coming out and seeing what's going on, what we have to deal with. We'll usually have guys on the ground within 2 days. We'll have tarping crews immediately. We bring a tractor trailer in with tarps, all the strapping and screws, everything we need. So we want to kind of get people wrapped up and temporarily secured is our first priority.
Yeah. And with that, are y'all charging the homeowner that tarping, or do you charge the insurance? How does that work?
So I do. So now it's illegal technically in Florida to sign over your rights to your insurance claim.
AOBs.
What's that?
AOBs are illegal.
Yep. And I've never asked a customer to do that. I don't think a customer should do that. We work directly with the homeowner or the property owner, whether it be commercial or residential. I've been dealing with insurance companies for 15 years. We also have an adjuster we bring in the house. But, trying to navigate through that, I'm not a pushy salesman. I'm not a hard close salesman, and it works for me.
Sure.
So I think what you're saying, what we want to do is, I want to let the homeowners know what their options are, what we can do, guide them through the best we can. Sometimes I'll see some stuff I know that they're going to need an adjuster on. I'll recommend getting an adjuster quickly rather than waiting. I have a family member that owns an insurance company. Tells me the first thing he does on any insurance claim is hire a public adjuster.
Yeah, for sure, to make sure the homeowners get or property owners get exactly what they're entitled to. Because roofers, we really can't negotiate with insurance companies. All we can do is show them. All we can do is show them our scope of work and what we think is damage, and then write our estimate. And then it's up to the insurance company to pay what they're going to pay. But when they hire a public adjuster or go through the appraisal process in different states, they have that right. That's how the homeowner can get exactly what they're entitled to. Now, I'm curious though, after, in the busy season, you might get 50 to 100 leads, right after a catastrophe. What percentage of those leads realistically get contacted, within the first 5 to 10 hours?
What we do is we'll pull in more office staff just to get to those people. We have the ability to pull more staff in, to get to tarping and stuff like that. What we realistically probably get to, my phone would ring from 5 a.m. and it would ring through to 1 a.m. It'd be that 4-hour window where I get over, I go in the office to work.
You get a couple hours of sleep.
Yep, 2 hours of sleep and 2 hours to get in the office to try and get ahead of that day. So we get to who we can. Obviously, one roofing company, I don't care how big you are, you're not going to get to everybody. Rough numbers, I would say we might get through to 10%. You got to understand, you have hundreds of calls a day coming through.
Yeah, totally. I totally get that. So those leads that aren't able to get contacted, where do they go? They just call somebody else?
They'll call someone else. We'll follow up with them. They may say they have someone. Quite truthfully, the first 30 days after a hurricane like Ian or Michael, any of those, the first 30 days you're in a cloud. The phone's ringing constantly. You can't keep up. You're tarping. You got 6 crews going, tarping, 6 to 8 houses each a day. That doesn't die down within the first 30 days.
It's chaos. I chased a hurricane out there once, and I swore I would never do it again. It is total chaos in Florida after a hurricane hits. And, a really good opportunity to help a lot of people, for sure.
Well,
So,
I am blessed. I have a roofing company that when a storm does hit, I can truly, and that's where my heart is truly helping people, and I get paid for it. What better of a job can you have?
Right. It's like the law of value. The more value that you give to the world, the more value that reciprocates back to you. It's like you're doing good, and in return, good's coming back to you. I'm a full believer in that. Now, so let's take a couple minutes and dive gears and talk about team and operations. So you have a handful of sales guys. What would you say is maybe your biggest challenge of getting the sales guys to follow up consistently?
It depends where your leads come from. And that's going to base where your customer's head is at. Some of the lead generation companies, you'll get, someone will apply for a roof estimate. Next thing you know, they got 10 people calling them. So they're not, I try and get my guys to understand that you got to put yourself in that person's head. They don't know that they just clicked on an ad that, is going to get sent out to 3, 5, 10 roofers. Fortunately, a lot of the guys have that in their head of, hey, this is costing us money. The homeowner didn't go set out to cost you money. So I think the biggest thing I try and do is get my guys to understand, look, if it's a good lead, that's someone that's reaching out for help. They got the letter, their insurance company is not going to renew them, so on and so forth. And that's what I think I try and get my guys to understand is don't get so stressed out over it. Try and think about, the consumer and what they're going through.
Have you ever hired like quote unquote veteran sales reps to help you handle the volume? If so, how did it go?
In my early stages of storm chasing, I did that. I will tell you this, I will never, ever, ever do it again. When a storm hits, you'll have guys coming out of the woodwork, roofers, subs. I love the guys that come here to Florida and they don't look up the rules first. Again, they're representing me in a company I've built, which means a lot. I have a group of guys now, but it took me some time to get there. Vet whoever you're gonna bring in. I mean, actually, we know if you're a roofer, someone comes down and sits in your office, you can tell a salesman knows what he's talking about in 3 minutes.
I've never had success hiring veteran sales reps. I've always found my best salespeople are the ones that I poured my heart into and developed that didn't have any knowledge. Sure, they might have sales experience, but like the quote unquote veteran sales reps, they end up causing me more headaches and more struggles than
they're not trained properly.
Well, yeah, or they're trained with the bad habits and they're not trained on your process where you can train good salesmen on your process or people who don't have that experience, right?
I hired a salesman years ago. The customer said, you know what? I know your reputation. I was going to go with you. I hate to tell you now I'm not, because I had to literally, after an hour and a half, kick your salesman out of my house. I am not a hard sell. Lay out what you have, get their concerns, answer their questions, and move on your way. So yeah, that is, I agree with you there. Having a veteran salesperson can bring not only problems, but liabilities.
So who in your org chart, because you're obviously the owner, founder, who in your org chart, are you acting as the sales manager, or do you have like a branch manager or sales manager who manages all your sales?
I act as the sales manager. I oversee all the contracts when they come in. I have to sign off on them. I'm at the point where I do a little bit of networking, and I manage a little bit of the leads and this and that, but that's pretty much where I'm at now.
Now, curious, with where you're at in your life, obviously you do roofing, you love roofing. It's probably one of the things you're the best in the world at in terms of your skill set. But have you ever, I'm sure people are blowing you up because private equity's blowing me up. I'm about to be 40 years old and I get, 10 emails a day. I get calls all the time. Private equity trying to buy our industry.
Yeah.
Have you ever started to think about like an exit?
If I was going to do something like that, and I'm sure someday, yes, I will sell. Sad to say, I'd want to sell to someone that has the same morals and is going to run it the same way as I do.
Yeah.
I've got a good system set up. I understand there's always room for improvement. If you don't think that, you're crazy. But I would at least like them to have the same foundation.
For sure. As an owner myself, like I have these core values that we believe, everybody in my company believes. And we don't want just some private equity company to come in here and like rip that spine out of the company. As far as valuation goes, 6 million, like that's top line. My company's going to do around the same this year. 6 million. Unfortunately, we had a down year. Last year was 9.6, but I brought in the wrong manager and that upset 3 of my best performers and they quit and I lost $3 million because if you put the wrong person in, it can really affect the growth of your company. Have you ever had that happen where you had a bad apple in your company and you saw your company start to dwindle?
Yeah, any company that is growing to that size is going to run into that. There's always the guy that doesn't have his name or his rear end on the line, has no liability, that thinks he can do it better. I think the biggest problem with that is, unfortunately, they don't have the capability of looking at the big picture and seeing that it's just not going to work out. You're right. It comes in. It's a rotten apple that starts running off on other people. I had the same thing. Lost a couple guys because I hired a project manager that unfortunately lost his temper a lot. Was a good roofer, but not a good manager. And he would take guys, push them away, and do it himself. And there was problems.
Sure. Kelly, I'm curious if you could insert like 3 systems tomorrow into your business that would make your business more successful or more valuable or run better without you, what would those 3 systems be?
A good manager, a good bookkeeper, and a good ads, lead generator, marketing.
I agree with you, brother. I had a manager this year, and I'm going through managers like once every year and a half, it seems like, but I have a good one now. And I found the right personality. And what I did is I gave him a salary. And if he grows my EBITDA 30%, he'll get a 30% increase. If he grows every year, if he grows my EBITDA, and after the 4th year, I learned this from one of the masterminds I'm a part of, he can have a piece of phantom equity, and he's out hustling, Kelly. Like he's literally driving the men out to the field every day because I gave him like the opportunity to grow a better income for his family. And then as far as like bookkeeping, you're absolutely right. I didn't have a good bookkeeper, and I finally found, I know I make around 10% net because that's what it has been historically. But my last bookkeeper wasn't good, but we got that figured out. So now we see that it's around 10% net, which is in my market.
And it's always better to be able to see things in front of you.
For sure. Absolutely. Now, curious, in the state of Florida, what are y'all's current margins, like profit margins? Where do you see the biggest opportunity for you to improve them?
The biggest problem in Florida is everybody wants to be a roofer. There's a lot of guys, they get roofing license. They put their license on other people's companies. They don't watch what's going on. Here in Florida, it's probably a mix between, there are too many guys out there that are willing to work for a paycheck, one. Too many guys that think because they're working, they're making money. And I see what some of these guys are bidding. And if people or roofers realized how easy it was to take 10 minutes after a job to gather all your receipts and invoices, within 10 minutes, you can know what your profit was on that job. And then, do I need to add more? I run into people all the time that a friend of mine here, he does handyman work on the side. His wife screams and this and that because he never bills enough money. People don't understand. When you're looking at numbers, your numbers start from when you sit down in the office to when you get to a job for an estimate. You have to track all that stuff. And here in Florida, they don't. To answer your question, is my thoughts, there's too many guys out there that don't look at their numbers first before they put pricing in.
Absolutely, man. Revenue is for vanity and profit margin is for sanity. I'd personally rather make 10 to 12% on, 6 to 8 million than do 10 million and only make, 5 to 8%, because it's less jobs, less headache. And personally, that's my opinion. I'm curious though,
I agree more.
If you could cut one major expense in half without it hurting your revenue, what would that be?
Marketing.
Marketing? Okay. And
we put out so much on marketing, and it's so hard to control. The door knocking and the cold calling stuff, that's a lot more accurate. But As you said, with the new meta and stuff that's coming out, Facebook has no guidelines. I mean, you can push it to a lot of limits. What I get from a lot of leads that I get off of Meta are, it was a misleading ad.
Yeah. And, or they're just trash leads. So I'm doubling down and putting my money in my, in my canvassers and my closers and my door knocking campaigns. And I'm also doubling down and putting my money in telemarketing campaigns because that's where I'm generating. And also I have an AI system that generates us a lot of leads. I'm curious, what's like the biggest operational bottleneck that's costing you money right now?
Biggest operational bottleneck. Again, we probably get 20% of our leads that come in are viable leads. So that would have a bit to do with it. If I didn't have to deal with trying to have people get a hold of all those other leads that might not be as good, it would free up a lot of time.
Okay. So with that in mind, like last October here in Costa Rica, I was sitting in a sauna in a cold plunge where I do my yoga. And I met this AI expert and I told him, he plays baseball. He's an athlete. He surfs just like me. And we became friends. And I told him I literally generate thousands of leads a year, but my team only closed 10% of those leads. And I asked him, do you have any ideas? And he said, hey, I'm actually an AI expert. And he built an AI follow-up system for my company. It's done really well. I'd love to talk with you about it offline, but I went from 10 to 30% lead to closing ratio in 1 year because of this AI tool. So with that in mind, I'm curious, Kelly, walk me through your current technology stack. Like what CRM you're using, does your team use it effectively? Talk to me about that.
We use a CRM system. We have someone that manages it. We run one. It works great for me because anything goes wrong, I call one person, they deal with it. And again, training. My guys are trained in it. They know they can go back and look anything up in a heartbeat. They all have the apps on their phones, so it works out very well for us. Like you said, from the second that call comes in to final invoicing and closing it out.
What's the CRM called?
Oh, I knew you were gonna ask. I can't even tell you.
No problem. It's all good. I'm curious. Have you tried implementing any AI or automation into your business?
We are going around that turn now. We're actually looking into some grants that the counties are putting out. The state have given counties, and that's where we're moving into now.
Yeah, it's actually an R&D tax write-off. So if you ever do go down that route, I've been using AI for almost 2 years now, and it's a write-off in my business. So I always recommend that to people. I'm curious, what's the one thing that you wish you could automate in your business, but just haven't had the time or put the time to figure it out yet?
The AI marketing. I'm looking very forward to seeing how that works out. I think that's going to be a huge benefit to my business.
So if you could have a system that would work for you 24/7 and it never took a day off, what would you want that system to do for your business?
Generate good leads. I think that's what AI is good for. I don't want AI to be talking to my customers. I'm not that set in it. I understand customers don't get 50 calls a day by these AI programs that we do, but I do like the personal touch. But yeah, if I could get AI going on the leads and to track it and have our own in-house on that is my goal that we're pushing for.
Switching gears in terms of the market, as we start to wrap this up, I'm just curious, where do you think the roofing industry is headed in the next 5 to 10 years? What's changing?
I think they're going to have a lot of pushback on the roofing industry. Here in Florida, roofers, you can't do subcontracting unless you're licensed. I think one of the best things, again, taking a test in a different state, taking a test here, they're pushing more for the business and finance courses. I think one of the biggest things that help and I know it would have helped me 25 years ago getting into business for myself, is taking that business and finance course. I think guys in the roofing industry and the pickup truck roofers are going to be dwindled out.
I'm curious, with all your experience, like if you were starting a roofing company today, with all the wisdom and knowledge that you have and everything that you know, like what's the first system that you put in place or the first hire that you put in place?
The first thing I would do if I was starting a new company, a roofing company today, is I'd have $250,000 in the bank. I would first hire an office manager. That's where it starts. Get going on the marketing, get those two set to where we have a flow of leads and appointments going out, and then start working on getting a production system set up.
Amen. And what advice would you give a roofer doing 500K that wants to get to like $3 to $4 million a year or up to $6 million a year like you?
You want to take every bit of advice people are willing to give you. Even talk to other roofers. Whether people think today, and it's even like in the BNI networking stuff, I don't look at other roofers as the enemy. I look at them as the competition, and they are, but we're all roofers. We come from the same backgrounds mostly. We have the same mentalities mostly. I would call other roofers that aren't in your area and ask them for advice. A lot of guys are willing to sit there and give you advice, especially a lot of successful guys.
Love that. It's so very true. What's one thing you're working out on in your business right now that you think is going to blow your business up or be a game changer?
AI.
Now, okay, I love to hear that. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to end with some parting wisdom. I'd like for you to just give like a smaller roofer one or two pieces of advice that helped you become more of an owner instead of an operator. What would that advice be?
Hire the right people. You hire people to do a job, give them the power to do that job. My managers have the power to stop a job site in its tracks. They have the power to hire, to fire, get the right people in the right positions, and oversee them. Don't micromanage them.
Amen. Amen. Guys, you heard it here with Kelly Shepard, the owner of All Weathertight Roofing out of South Florida. I appreciate your time today, Kelly. I'll be sending you this recording in the next couple of days.
Justin, it's been a pleasure, and glad to see you're doing this. I'd love to see another roofer that is doing something. I mean, not only are you continuing business, but you're helping other people. And that's, you're going to win either way. You're going to win helping someone, and you're going to get the gratification of it. I love that.
I'm telling you, man, like I did this because I was stuck. Like I truly, I wasn't happy in my business about 5 years ago. And I just did what you did. I reached out to other roofers outside of my market, and I decided to start recording the conversations. And I've learned so much from individuals. There's over 100 episodes on the Real Construction Owners podcast. I want to invite you to take a look at some of those episodes, Kelly, because there's some guys doing 10, 15, 20, 50 million a year on that show.
One of the richest men I have ever met is a roofer. And he's passed away now. Guy was worth $200 million. At one point in the 90s, he owned the country's largest privately owned roofing company.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm telling you, like roofing is such a good business. In the last 5 years, I've decided to love the people instead of loving the money. I used to love the money and just buy real estate, 2 or 3 properties every year, which I still do that. But now I pour into people, and I pour into my culture, and I reinvest that money into like quarterly events and weekly spiff, opportunities. And that keeps the culture alive. Man, I've had a good time with you today, Kelly. Thanks for being on this call.
Hey, me too. Justin,